Hello and welcome to German Cinema Now. My name is Martin Schwartz and I'm the Program Curator at Goethe Pop Up Seattle. German Cinema Now is a monthly program co-presented with Northwest Film Forum, through which we aim to give Seattle audiences access to the best and boldest in today's German film. I'm thrilled that you have joined us for our discussion of the beautiful documentary feature, Art Comes from the Beak, The Way It Has Grown. With us is the film's director, Sabine Herpich, joining us from Berlin, and Diane Knoll, the founder and executive director of Seattle's Vibrant Palette Arts Center. Sabine and Diane, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi. Thanks for the invitation.
Certainly. So I'd like to start with a general question, something that I think is very close to both of your hearts. What is it that draws you to work with artists with disabilities? For you, Sabine, as a filmmaker, and I know this project must have taken a long time and a lot of work. And for you, Diane, in your work with Vibrant Palette, was there an experience that made it clear to you that you want to spend time with this group? Either of you want to start?
Perhaps you, Diane?
Sure, I can go first. So my profession is an occupational therapist. I'm kind of a artist on the side, but that's kind of my main thing. And I had been working in schools for a long time and in special education. And with that, got to work with all ages really. So preschool through high school. And even they have a transition program at the top of special education for people that have a little bit more specific needs from 18 to 21. So as I was working in the high school and with a transition group, I was realizing in Seattle, we really didn't have a lot of programming once they got out of special education services. So if a person couldn't have a full-time job or even really have the skills to have a job, there just wasn't a lot. There are a couple day programs in the community, but a lot of people are just sitting at home. And at the same time, I had learned about Judith Scott, who is this amazing fiber artist through Creative Growth, which is a similar organization down in Oakland. And they've been around a really long time. I think they were one of the first in the US to emerge. So I was like, oh, well, that would be an interesting kind of programming that maybe Seattle is already offering. So I was just looking into it. I was like, oh, I'll just volunteer because I'm sure being so close to Oakland, we already have to have something if that organization has been around for that long. And I did some research and there wasn't anything. And so I had this ridiculous idea to start a nonprofit and here we are today.
That's so cool. And how about you, Sabine?
Friend of mine told me about this workshop, and I emailed Lina Pfannenstiel. She
leads
it, and she invited me to have a look, and I was very impressed of the art and the way they work. Yeah. So I fell in love with the work. Yeah.
It's just the first visit, and you knew that you had to do a project.
Yeah.
That's great. So in the film, it often seems like you aren't even there. They've gotten the artists and the teaching artists have gotten so used to you that they're able to just work. How did that happen? How did you make that work?
Mm-hmm. I stayed a few weeks or even a few months.
Wow.
And in the beginning, I just stayed there and the whole day.
Yeah.
And after a while, I started to film, but only a little bit. And I always figured out if the artist, if it's okay for the artist to have me by their side. Is it correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So as when they feel okay, I started to film, and they got used to me. Even Susie after a few weeks, she always asked me, when will I come to her again? She was very, she liked to talk with me during filming.
Yeah. No, she clearly likes attention. She's such a wonderful character. Susie, for everyone who's just seen the film, is the wonderful artist with the fixation on roosters. She's the rooster artist with the rooster Hitler and the rooster identifies.
I love her stuff.
Absolutely, me too. And so Sabine, did you speak with the artists a lot, or typically just kind of sitting there and having them get used to your presence?
I spoke with some of them can't speak. For example, Adolf Beutler, he just says a few words, or some other artists can't speak.
So Diane, you founded and run a workshop for artists with cognitive disabilities here in Seattle. What struck you about the Mosaik workshop? What sort of similarities or difference did you see in their overall approach compared with what you do?
Yeah, I think our approaches for the most part are very similar. You know, there's a little bit difference in how the program is run. So right now we are only 1 day a week, and we're hoping to expand into more days, but really we're only in operation on Wednesdays. And then we rent space out of Pratt Fine Arts Center. So we're kind of within a larger community of artists. And to that end, so our artists, you know, they can't have each their own little individual workspace that is set up for them every day the same way. And, you know, to me, that was actually really inspiring, because I realized, oh, our artists don't see their past work as much because we put it in their own portfolios. And then, you know, every once in a while we'll bring it out if we're looking for an art show and have them go through it with us. But so that was really interesting to see. And I think just really probably impacts their creativity a little bit different, because every day they're kind of immersed in the work they've done. And I think to that extent, because we are within Pratt, I think our organization, I really thrive on the fact that we're more inclusive. So we're in the painting drawing studio, and right next door is a printmaking studio. So our artists interact with other artists from the community that are over there frequently. And they obviously have been around a lot longer, so they have a larger staff to our studio. And then it also sounded like there was an administration that was kind of separate from the arts org, and that piece of that sheltered workshop, which we don't have. So we're really just kind of our own thing. But I'd say like the similarities is just really seeing how their art changes and progresses over time. Our artists are the same way, especially during this pandemic this last year. I was blown away by how committed all of our artists were to showing up to a Zoom meeting every week for an hour, and then them really taking it on themselves to progress their art. Joey, one of our artists, started watching YouTube videos on how to draw things, and just like his art just blew up. It was amazing. So I think that same intensity and want to be creative is very similar between our artists. And then just our relationship with the artists. You know, some days they do come in and they're upset about something that's been at home, or just, you know, grumpy. So to be able to sit there and, you know, when they're crying or things like that, and just, you know, that's the priority first before the art, always, just kind of like on the film. So
and there's that beautiful scene in the film where Nina sits with Beutler while he's weeping, and she tries to understand if he's happy or if he's sad, and what's it about, and she just sort of sits with him. Sabine, is that something that happens a lot in the workshop?
Yeah, very, very often. He cries every day, several times. And when I start filming, I stopped my camera because I didn't feel comfort when he cried. And after a while, because he does it so often, after a while I thought es gehört zu ihm.
It's part of him.
It's part of him, and and doing when he starts drawing, it helps him to find out of his dark mood.
Yes.
So for me, was it became important to show his the crying.
Yeah. And I have to say,
only once.
Only once.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Only just as a viewer of the film, there's that very powerful scene with him weeping, and then at the end, at the opening of the exhibition, just seeing his kind of beatific, saintly, happy face holding one rose seems like the pendant to that. It balances it out, and then we get to see both sides of Adolf Goethe. I really appreciated that. So Sabine, were the artists interested in the final product of the film? Did they want to see it, and did they want to know how they would look in it or how their art would look? And if any of them did see it, what did they think?
Everybody saw it. We watched it together in a cinema before we
released?
Öffentlich before
the film was released.
Yes. Yeah. We showed it everyone, and we talked about it after the screening, and it was very interesting because we thought it's the first time the artists watch the others during work, because when they are in the workshop, they only work with, they work, but they don't watch to the others.
Right.
And the cinema, it was the first time, and they were really astonished.
Yeah.
And we talked a long time about everyone together.
Yeah.
It was a good experience.
So they liked it.
Yeah.
That's terrific. And Diane mentioned COVID. Have you checked in on the workshop, Sabine, during COVID? Do you know what they've been doing?
There was Notbetreuung. How is the English expression?
Notbetreuung, like emergency care.
Yes. So artists who can't work at home, they got the opportunity to go to the workshop.
Yeah.
So half of it worked while
kept going.
Lockdown.
That's amazing. So for both of you, I guess, what role do you think that art making plays in the lives of the artists, both at Vibrant Palette and at Mosaik? I mean, Diane, you deal with this every day. What comes to mind for you?
I mean, I think obviously it's a creative outlet for all of our artists. I think it almost becomes, it becomes very important. And like I said, we saw that in the pandemic, is our artists showed up every week and they were ready to get to work and very focused. We would just do like 2 1-hour Zooms. And so I think it's a place for them to be able to experiment with new mediums, gain exposure to different kind of art. So we do go on field trips and have workshops where we bring other artists in to show them different mediums and different artwork and have them try it out. And then I think another really strong piece is the social aspect. So, we've had artists start that were really at first kind of didn't want to be around anybody else, hiding in the corner on the other side of the room. And then, now they've made friends and they do things outside of our studio time together. We've had relationships start from our studio as well. And then the other piece I just really love is, and I think you saw it in the film too, is the art shows, because I feel like it's this natural bridge for people to feel like they know how to start a conversation with someone with a disability, which I know seems weird, but I've seen it time and time again, is people are just like, I don't know what to say. And I'm always just like, just be yourself, just talk to them like any other person. But it's definitely to watch our artists' face kind of light up when someone they don't know comes up and approaches them and asks them about their work is really just an awesome experience. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sabine, what did you observe in your time at the Mosaik workshop? What role did you feel like the art played for these artists?
For example, Susie, she makes art the whole day, and she does it since she was a child. She always it's as important as eating or something like this. For the most artists, it's very, very important. And for example, for Adolf Beutler as well, it's they have to do it. Yeah.
I was really interested watching the way that the studio helpers work with the artists in the film. Some of them, it seems to me, like Adolf Beutler, know what they're doing and do it. And some other of them would otherwise maybe sort of do the same thing over and over again if they didn't get an occasional push from the studio helpers. How did that seem to you? The way that the teaching artists work with.
Everybody knows the two persons, Nina and Laura. They know the artists very, very well since many, many years. Yeah. So they know when it's important to push. Yeah. For example, Gabi sometimes she needs a little bit pushing, but Susie or Adolf, they don't need any pushing. Yeah. And on the other side, there's the art market. And for me, the scene with Gabi and Nina, when they discuss how, for example, the titles are for the art market, because Gabi, for her, it's not important that a work has a title, but it's for the art market. And the decision to do Tod und Lehm again and bigger, for me, it has to do with the art market, because Nina didn't want to do any sorry, I don't know. Dinosaurier.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs. Yeah. Because Gabi made many dinosaurs, and and Nina tried to push her to another subject.
She didn't think they would sell.
Maybe both. It would be good to do something like Tod und Lehm.
Yeah. That was really interesting to me, because the workshop seems so sheltered from not the world, but from kind of market forces, from capitalism in a way, because all of these artists have a place to come and be respected and have dignity and have work just like any other kind of worker. And yet it did seem important that some of the works would bring in financing, right? So there's no escaping capitalism, I guess. Diane, did you see a lot of similarities in the way that your teaching artists work with your participants in that, or?
I think when you talked about like the relationship building, I think that is a really strong piece of it. So we, I would say like since we've been back in the studio, we haven't been pushing as much. We just want people to kind of ease back in. But, we do with some of our artists, not, I don't want to say push, but we encourage them to try new things or like revisit a piece and add more detail. Because we do offer them 3 art shows a year where we try to show and sell their work.
Right.
So yeah, every once in a while we'll pull something back out and say, oh, what do you think about adding to this? And some of our artists are like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And some are like, no.
Right.
Done with it
Right.
and not looking at it again. So it's
Right.
really just, it depends on the person. And I think just what they're open to. And again, it's kind of building that trust with them of like, well, I think this could use a little bit more, but it's really kind of a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference too, is that because they have been there for so long, Nina and everyone, and they know the artist really well, they can probably push a little bit harder than we can at this point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perhaps push is too strong word.
Yeah.
Guide.
Exactly. We like to say facilitate.
Facilitate.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I didn't mean to imply harsh measures on the part of the beautiful and stately workers at the Mosaik Art Center. And let it be said that I have so much respect for the people who run that facility. And I thought that Sabine, you really created a beautiful document of how these people work together to create, and that it's work just like any other work, but it's also a beautiful exploration of creativity, and it's also people living together. So I thought that was really terrific. Sabine, was this the show that was in the exhibition that was in the film? Was this this type of thing that happens often, mm-hmm. or was this a bigger event?
No, it was in comparison a very small exhibition, mm-hmm. because Adolf Beutler is very famous in Europe. He got one award. And his work is shown in many countries, yep. And Susie's work as well. The problem was when I start filming, I planned to do to film a big exhibition in another country, mm-hmm. But unfortunately we got no money for the film, so I had to stay in Berlin, and yep. the exhibition took place in near Berlin. Mm-hmm. But for me, first I was a bit disappointed that I can't go to a big place, but then I thought the discussion between the curator and Nina Pfannenstiel is very interesting, because it's for me it's about the definition, not definition, to use this expression outsider art, or to have this expression in order to have a good marketing, to do good marketing, and Nina tries to not to use it because they are artists, and that's they should seen as artists and not as outsider artists.
Yes. I also thought that conversation was really great, and it was really kind of illuminating, because Nina, absolutely, as you say, she wanted to represent them just as any other artist manager or agent would represent their artists. And you could tell that there was, obviously the curator is a lovely person and really respects the artist, but there is that sort of like slight tension between what works in the market and what is more and what is authentic to the relationship. And that helped me to understand the artists of the Mosaik workshop as artists just like any others. And I'm really glad that made it into the film.
Yeah, the term outsider artist is kind of my pet peeve.
Is it?
Yeah. For those exact reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah. Sabine, can you tell us a little bit about what your next project might be and how, if it relates to this one?
I stayed another time with art. I would like to film, I don't know the English expression, sorry, Tastführung für blinde Gäste in einer Galerie. Ein Tasten.
Touching, yeah.
Yeah, touching.
Yeah.
For blind people, if they want to go to exhibitions.
Yeah, I see.
There are special offer in the gallery in Berlin for blind people, and I would like to.
I think it's called Tactile. Yeah. That's really cool. So, you're working with a specific gallery in Berlin that's working on tactile experiences for visitors with disabilities?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific. And Diane, what's next for Vibrant Palette?
Oh, we have the Shunpike Window series that's going up in September. So it's a collaborative installation with all of our artists. So that's our next big thing. And we actually, right now, they do have another collaborative installation that they worked on during the pandemic at Cal Anderson. It's all the painted lanterns that are up there.
Yes.
Vibrant Bloom. So if you're watching this in Seattle, you can go see that and know that was our artist as well.
Everybody in Seattle, go to Cal Anderson and look at this beautiful installation. Terrific. Well, it has been about our time, but I want to thank you both for a really, really lovely conversation. Sabine, I want to thank you so much for this beautiful film, and I'm so happy that we are able to share it with audiences here in Seattle and in the US. And Diane, thank you so much for the work that you do with these artists here in Seattle and for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, I just wanted to say, Sabine, I loved the film too. I thought you really captured kind of the essence of all the artists so wonderfully. So thank you.
So much. Thanks very much. And I'm very glad that people in Seattle can see the film and see these artists and the work.
So are we. Super. Well, to both of you, I wish you a beautiful morning and evening, and I look forward to seeing what's next from your organizations and from your work, Sabine.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.